So cleaning process with our buffer here. We've now finished up 1,500, 2,000, and 3,000 grit sandpapers, and we're now moving on to buffing. In this case here, we're going to have single location Makita buffers that are here, which basically means this thing's just spinning in one direction. There is no dual action that's to it while it's going in a circle, going in a circle. This is just singular motion that's with it. Very traditional style buffer that's with it. Very economical, budget friendly. I've had Milwaukee's, I've had Makitas. DeWalt's are trash. I don't much care for them. So if you got a DeWalt, sorry. They're heavy is the biggest problem. They'll buff, but they're just really heavy. Whenever you get hanging over a hood like this consistently, that weight plays a role inside of it. So never been a fan, but they'll still buff, I guess. Okay, before we do anything, we need to get things cleaned up. As you can see, this has caked up compound. This isn't anybody else's fault for doing this. There's just no sufficient way to clean this until it becomes basically chalky or solidified inside of this. Whenever we get to cleaning out our wool pad or our foam pads for second and third steps that we'll do with our buffing process here, we can clean these out prior and afterwards, but with wool, we just leave it as it is until the next round. So stay away from the walls, and I don't want stuff thrown all over the walls either. So you see it throwing in this general direction that's through here, you're just going to see a series of dust. Before I do it, I'm going to showcase the fact that I'm going to go all the way out to the edges and through there, holding it at roughly 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Bump the speed up just a touch. You can see that old compound getting slung out of there. One thing I will commend whoever used this buffer last on is there wasn't a bunch of compound caked inside of it. You can put too much compound on here and essentially eliminate any real purpose of having it. You basically have so much compound that you can't actually do any buffing with it. So be aware of that. These are on a quick disconnect system that's here, so I can actually flip that pad over. I do like to clean both sides just to make sure that both sides are sufficiently cleaned off and I'm not throwing trash from the top side to the bottom side. Okay, at that point, it's very simple. It doesn't take a lot of time to do this. It would be sufficiently cleaned off. This is, I did forget to mention before we get started, this is the spur. Spur is the tool that we're going to use just to clean the wool pad is all that I'm doing. It's not for foam or anything else. This is just for wool pad, and it looks just like the spurs you'd find on an old cowboy boot type thing. So, all right, let's head in there and actually start the buffing process. Okay, so now that we have our buffer properly cleaned out, we need to go to the process of actually beginning to buff. If you recall from the earlier part in the video, whenever we were still wet sanding, this paper was soggy and nasty. This has all since been cleaned out. The table's been wiped down additionally. New paper's been put on and secured. The panel's been wiped and secured properly. Cleanliness is going to be everything. So I am going to have to get over on edges and things like that, despite me trying not to. The fact that this wool getting over on this edge and picking something up is possible. That's where the cleanliness really comes into play. For the 3M buffing process, there is 3 different steps. The first one is going to be wool pad with the color coordinated white compound. Whenever we go on to the next step, you'll see gray with gray compound, blue with blue compound, but we were with white compound here. The biggest mistake people make is trying to put too much compound down. Granted, it will take some compound initially to get the pad sufficiently, how do I want to say it here? We'll just call it lubricated, ready to go with it through there. So it may chew up a little bit more in the initial part, but by no means should this compound inside of the buffer, I shouldn't just see white compound caked across this thing. I become ineffective at that point. So let's kind of see what we're going to do here. We're going to have same thing as what we've done before, a little square that's located in there, and you're going to see me put out just a little bit. Now, I put out more than a little bit there. It's not that complicated. Wipe off the extra that's with it. I can maybe distribute it out a little bit further if I needed to put that in other places. I could just smear it around through there. I was getting pretty heavy on it, so let's take just a little bit of that out and have that extra. So I'm not going to reuse that by any means. Oops, gotta get my handle on that. Something important to note before we get started is this is a variable speed buffer. It does give you a chart that's right through here that rates your RPMs per what the selected number is. So in this case, at let's just call it 3, my RPM will peak at 1500 RPM. For white wool, that's a pretty good place to start. Whenever we get into the foams, gray or blue foams, you might see me jump that to 4 and bump it up a little bit closer. I by no means need to get up into the 3200 RPM range, though. I need to stay lower with that. So you'll see me work this around through here. There is going to be some additional splatter that comes off, so you're going to see my nice apron I have through here. This doesn't have to be a fancy apron. You can go to Walmart and buy any series of Kiss the Cook aprons for $2 or $3. I do have to give a shout out to Liam Weber, who graduated last year, on getting me the ever coveted Wendy's apron that's here. So first time buffing in it. Okay, no different than whenever we were sanding. I'm going to work my edges first and then come into my center that's through there. What I'm going to see is I'm watching the compound and I'm watching the area that I'm buffing inside of here. If I see that compound start to disappear, similar to what it's going to be on there, I need to add more. Otherwise, I'm going to run the risk of what's called burning the paint that's through there. This is still a fresher refinished material that's on here with a frictional type pad like this. So the wool pad is going to create frictional heat. Without that compound that's there, I have no lubrication to keep it from burning through that. So if I see that start to dissipate out, I need to put a little bit more in there. I'll work it around again. Notice how I'm just kissing up to that edge. Once again, I'm not running really far over it. Now I'm going to work kind of a 45-degree angle in on it. And we can see where it's chewed that compound away. I've got a little bit there, so I'm going to do a little bit of initial buffing with that. But it's not going to go very far. Walking gently into the corner. Let's put just a touch more. Now, if we've done our sanding well, the buffing is marginal. I'm really not giving it any extra pressure. I'm not doing anything like that. The buffing is just simply polishing out where the sandpaper stops. If I fail to do a good job with my sanding, then I'm going to see spots that I have to go over 3 or 4 or 5 different times. That shows a sign of poor sanding is what that's done. I got a little bit of compound left through there. I'm going to go ahead and just breeze across it right quick. You see it chew up pretty fast. So I won't keep chasing it. I will get to a point that I'm going to end up wiping the area off, but not yet. Marginal. So he's asking about, Blaine asked about how much pressure. You see where I basically haven't enough to guide with this hand, and I'm doing nothing more than holding on enough to where I can pull the trigger. So good question with that. I'm letting the compound and the buffer do the work, not me and how hard I push on it. No different than sanding. I can target areas. I still need to make sure I have enough compound on there. But if I see a defected area, I could very easily buff on that. With my towels, my microfiber towels that are through here, important things to note is that as I start progressing my polishing process, these little microfibers, despite how fancy they are, will still cause micro scratching that's in that. More specifically, that tag and these edges are what's going to be causing a lot of that scratching. So I can fold my microfiber to defeat that, at least try to defeat that in the beginning. So notice how I fold that there and I fold that there. I now no longer have any hard edges or tads that are there present. Really, it doesn't matter too much in my experience on whether you work in a circular motion, work in a back and forth motion. The big thing right now is just get the compound off of it. Okay, and then my initial outlook is going to be, what do I see? I'm looking for the same things. I'm looking for those curly cues. I'm looking for any scratches that are there. Granted, I've spent a little extra time on my edges. I have spent a marginal amount of time on my center, but I can still look at it and see what do I have. I see a faint curly cue that's there, which doesn't worry me yet, but I will need to focus on him specifically. And as I'm looking through there, still finding the light above me, I'm just looking across trying to find anything else. I have a few faint curlicue areas that are there, but nothing that I'm worried about not coming out on a net surrounded buffing. So I'll let you guys take a look at that right quick. Once again, if you did your sanding correct, step by step by step, buffing is a breeze. Wet sanding and buffing, wet sanding is going to be the 80% of the time, and 20% of that, if you did your job right, is going to just be buffing. Okay, so now I'm going to focus a little bit. I do know that I have one right there, and I have a littler cluster that's right through there. No different than anything else I've talked about so far. I want to get all playing fields leveled off, and then I'll worry about buffing the hole. So I'm going to focus there and focus on that guy specifically. Every time that buffer goes back and forth, it's almost like it's playing peekaboo with you. It comes down and I can see exactly what I'm working. So that scratch that was there, I can monitor it at all times throughout there. Once I see him disappear through there, then I know, okay, I got it. I'm good to go. Once again, finding the light above me is a big one. And there was once a curlicue there is now no longer one. Let's work on this top one. Finding that light above me once again and watching that scratch go away. We're going to do a wipe. I'll analyze one more time and then probably do one across the entire thing to finish that square off. But so far, our sanding has been sufficient. Okay, double checking with the light one more time. Very faint amount that's through there. I just want to pull everything together. To give a look at what the pad is. Notice we have some built up, but we don't have a massive amount. It's not clogging up the pad by any means with this. Okay, work the whole area in one more time. You will see me kiss some edges as well as work the entire area that's through there. No different than sanding. The more I stand this buffer up, the more direct it cuts. So whenever you see me hit these big long areas through here, let's stop it for a second. My edges, you've seen me more angled up, focusing right where I needed it at. On the big swoops, though, notice how I go down. I'm never flat. I'm never going to be flat inside of this. I just, similar to my DA, keep a slight angle that's on there. Same way the DA, focusing on which direction I'm going and which edge is making contact through there. What I should be left with, once I declare this done, is a panel that shows no defects. There will be some micro scratching and stuff. That's still coming from the wool pad and the abrasion that it's putting. What's going to take out the wool pad, March? The next step, the gray pad that's going to be on there. That'll be a foam pad that's there. Then once we get the blue pad, that's taking out gray, but is also going to aid in giving us protection from sunlight as well as kind of helping create that extra shine that's there. We'll talk about it more whenever we get to it. So any questions we got? Okay, I'll let you guys come up and analyze it. But that is buffing stage number 1. All right, second round is going to be foam pad gray. It's been wetted though, so remember, there's really no way to clean this once we're done. We need to take it to the sink, rinse it off. Whenever we go back to use it again 2 months later, we need to wet it, hook it up, and then sling the excess water out, which Ian's already done on this one. Whenever it comes to our compound, don't go crazy. I don't care to put it on the pad at all. I don't think it's consistent. Whenever we get to our area, which our damage area is about like that, we put a fine amount there to get started with. You may see that dissipate pretty quick because our pad is now clean. I would still keep a small amount on there initially though. Get it spread. I'll pull the trigger just to make sure it's not gonna sling stuff all over the place. We're running, we see it variable through there. I'm gonna start off running about 2.5 is where we're at. There's all that excess water that's coming out. So don't be frightened by it, but it is gonna happen here initially. You hear that higher RPM, you see how quick I'm moving it. Stay consistent with that. Watch about dragging this thing on the edge. That's not what we're doing here. I'm just dragging it on this side of the edge. To do the edge, go ahead and switch my places. we need to kiss into that edge. So I'm still not going over it, I'm just going up to it, and that'll finish it across. So what we're after is to get rid of all of the marring that you're gonna see occur from whenever we use the white wool pad. Once we have that eliminated, then we'll move on to blue, which you'll see here coming up. Okay, and now we're on to blue. So we finished up gray. Remember, gray's only purpose is to take out the marring that's left behind by the wool pad that we've seen. As we look through it, we've got him lit. Now we have the blue foam that's here. One thing I want to go back and note is that on the gray, if you start to see it drying out, you see on this tailgate, it's a real small panel. That compound really doesn't have enough time to dry out. If it starts to get kind of chalky, take and apply a little extra water to it. We don't run into that now with the blue compound. The blue compound actually has a kerosene additive that's in it. So whenever we're using that, it actually stays wet the whole time and doesn't try to dry out on us. It still doesn't take a lot of material to go down. You see us in our immediate area once again. I do want to bump this up. We are now going to 3. We need that fast RPM in order to actually get that true polish. You can look at blue and say, what are we doing with this? Technically, we're taking out the slight marring and really the kind of inconsistent shine spots you'll see occur with gray if you take it out in the sunlight. This gives us that sleek, clean shine all the way throughout it. So you hear that higher RPM. We have to have that to get that true polish going. We work our area. We will use a brand new microfiber to wipe these away. Once we do that, I always recommend doing this twice. Always run blue compound twice. So run it once across the whole thing, wipe it down, make sure everything's good, reapply, do it again, you're ready to go.